Danny was wanted for the shooting that had taken place earlier, or sometime earlier, in which he had shot the teenager in the leg, the teenager that apparently owed his gang money, and he caught him, held him against a wall, shot him in the leg, right around the knee, with a shotgun, and blew his lower leg off with the shotgun. So Danny was wanted for that. Police were looking for him. So on a Saturday night, Danny and some other gang members were driving down the street in this suburb of Chicago, city near Chicago, and a patrol car with 2 police officers in it was driving the opposite direction and saw Danny and these youth in this and these gang members in this car. So they turned around and to pull the car over because they recognize Danny in the car, and as they turned around, turned on the lights, the car sped away briefly, pulled over, and Danny and a couple of the other gang members got out of the car and ran. The officers, the 2 officers, began a foot chase after Danny and one of the other suspects, or one of the other people running. So I'm going to focus on the officer who was chasing Danny and that situation and how that played out. So that officer is chasing Danny, and they go through, I believe it's a parking lot or parking lot area, maybe in an alley, into an alley, and there's a fence. At some point, they come to a fence, and Danny has a bag with him, a backpack or a bag, some sort of bag, maybe a duffel bag, a backpack. He throws the bag over the fence and starts to climb over the fence, and the officer catches him, grabs a hold of him, and is trying to arrest him. A fight ensues. The officer's telling him to stop resisting, telling him that he's caught, he's under arrest, to stop resisting. They continue fighting, and as I said in the previous video, or the previous recording about Danny shooting the other kid, the 15-year-old, that Danny was also a boxer and trained in martial arts. Well, him and this officer were fighting, and Danny was really, not just trying to get away, but fighting with this officer, trying to really hurt him. Well, at a point in this, while this officer is trying to arrest him, Danny, the officer notices that his gun is not in his holster anymore, and that Danny had taken his gun out of his holster, taken the officer's gun out of the officer's holster. Well, Danny shot the officer multiple times. Witnesses heard the gunshots, and he shot him multiple times. The officer was trying to not get hit with the bullets, and as he was on the ground, he had been shot multiple times. I don't recall exactly how many times he had been shot, but he was on the ground severely wounded from multiple gunshots. I believe it was maybe 4 or 5 gunshots. Danny put the gun to the officer's forehead and pulled the trigger. Fired a bullet right between the officer's eyes. And then left. Took off running. Believe he went over the fence, down an alley. So he killed the officer, murdered him. Then he left, and he was fleeing, trying to make his way to Mexico, getting out of the country to escape. Police are looking for him. I believe federal agents, DEA. Excuse me. DEA or FBI got involved. And Danny made it into Mexico and was there for a short time when I don't recall if it was either FBI or DEA, but they went there and got him, picked him up, brought him back to Illinois in the Chicago area to stand trial for this murder of a police officer. So Danny's found guilty and is sentenced to death. Well, he's on death row for murdering a police officer. Years later, he told me that this woman showed up to visit him one day. And she was she was an attorney. He said he'd never met her. She just showed up and asked him, do you want to get out of prison? Do you want to get off death row? And he said, yes. And she said, then I need you to do exactly what I tell you to do. And don't do anything else. You do exactly what I tell you to do. And I'm going to get you out of here. I'll get your case overturned. She told him that. He'd never seen this lady before. Had no idea who she was. She was an attorney. She came to visit him. And she was looking for a case that, she could kind of make her name on. And she wanted to find a case that she could overturn, a death sentence case, or a life sentence case, some kind of a serious sentence. So from there, he said everything changed. The next thing you know, she's filing paperwork and with the courts to get his case looked at again, get it reviewed, and lo and behold, she was successful in this. He got a new trial. He couldn't believe it. He said, he was shocked. He stood over that officer and put a gun to his forehead when the officer was already, shot multiple times. And he point blank shot that officer right between the eyes. This is what he told me. So he said, he was just like shocked but glad, because he thought, wow, maybe I'm actually going to get out of here. And he, couldn't believe it. He's like, he knows he killed this cop. But anyway, so then he said he's granted a new trial, or he's given a new trial. And during the trial, the attorney and people she worked with coordinated for protesters to be outside the courthouse. And she paid people to come in busloads. Like, she paid busloads of people to come into the city. They weren't from there. They didn't live in the city. They didn't know him, nothing like that. So she paid for these people, busloads, multiple busloads of people, to show up at the courthouse and to be outside picketing and protesting with these signs that said, free Danny, these sorts of things. And he said he couldn't believe it, and who are these people and all this and that. But she told him it's all part of the process. It has an effect. It has a psychological effect on people when they see these sorts of things, and it can cause them to not want to go against the crowd that's protesting. Which to me is absurd. But apparently in many people's psyche, that works. Myself, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm more like, oh really? But let me get back to the story. So Danny says they go through this a new trial, and he won. And he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. And they released him after 10 years. He was on death row for 10 years for murdering this cop, which he doesn't even deny. I mean, he told me the whole story of how it went down, how he killed him. So he's free. He gets released. He's free. Him and the attorney, they don't keep in touch or anything. She did what she wanted to do, which was, make a mark for herself, something to put her name on. And then so Danny said that he was, he's at his apartment, and he said the cops he believed they were gonna try to get him, because he had killed one of their fellow officers. And he said he knew he needed to get out of there. And he said the officer's partner, who was there the night of the chase, the other officer that was involved in pulling Danny over for shooting the 15-year-old, and they chased, the gang members that ran. And so that officer chased one of the other guys, and then the officer got killed, chased Danny, and ended up getting murdered by Danny. So that other officer, they were partners. Danny said that other officer was parked outside of his apartment one day, apparently waiting for him, according to Danny. And Danny said he went out a back door or back window or something from his apartment and climbed up on the roof of the apartments and positioned himself to where he was behind the officer who was sitting in his patrol car. And Danny said he was up on the roof with the rifle, with a scope, and he said he pointed it at the officer, the partner of the officer that he had murdered. And he said through the back window, he had the back of that officer's head in his crosshairs. And he said he thought about it. He thought he could kill him right now. He said, I could blow his head right off. He said, I'm sitting here with a scope on the back of this guy's head. And he was going to do it. He said he was going to take his head off, kill him. But then he said he knew he couldn't beat two murder cases. So he decided not to do it. But he said he had his finger on the trigger and he was just starting to squeeze it. And then he thought, he didn't want to go back to prison. So he climbed back down the building, back in his apartment, and decided then to leave. And I believe he said he left possibly that day or the next day. And he moved several states away, and that's where I met him. he and I worked together for a time. And anyhow, he's an interesting character. Definitely a dangerous person. And smokes a lot of weed. He said that it keeps him calm. I remember him telling me, he said, "You wouldn't like me if I didn't smoke weed." And I said, oh yeah? And he said, yeah. He said, "I'm not the same person." And he said, "It's good that I smoke it, believe me." Or he said, "It's good that I smoke it, trust me. You wouldn't like me if I didn't smoke it." And he literally smoked weed, I would say, all day long at work. He had, he'd go off somewhere, take a couple little tokes or hits, whatever they call it nowadays, I don't know. And come back to work, and he would do that all day long. And always carried a bag with him, a backpack, and always had various things in the backpack. But yeah, so anyway, he ended up winning some sort of an art contest. I remember that. And he had a few of his art things. I think they were being displayed in some art gallery, and he was trying to push that. And what happened was, while he was in prison, he got involved in art. And that, for some reason became a big deal in his trial, in his second trial for murdering the officer. There's kind of this focus on his art and how he became this wonderful artist and all this and that. Well, it doesn't really matter that he became a good artist. And you see what happens, how these things, you'll find that some inmates develop certain artistic abilities or writing ability or various other abilities while they're in prison. That's because they're bored. So they don't have a lot of things to do, and they don't have a lot of mental stimulus going on, so they're bored. And when the mind is bored, when the brain is bored and doesn't have a lot of things going on, that's when a person can learn more. So it's not some unusual thing that a violent, dangerous murderer develops some sort of other ability that seems better while in prison. That's not some abnormal thing or unusual thing. That just means that he was no longer out in society where he had all these other things going on in his mind like everybody in society does, but he was now contained in a place that had far less thinking to do, far less things going on. So his mind became bored, and he was able to hone in and focus on certain things. And that thing that he focused on was, he took an art class and he developed the ability to become pretty good at art. Some of them start learning chess, some learn electronics, some learn writing skills. There's a number of things they do. But that could be practically anybody in that circumstance. Anyhow, I saw some of his art, and it was some interesting things. I remember he made on a piece of tile, a piece of roof tile, he made an Indian chief, a drawing or picture of an Indian chief on that, and then put some sort of a sheen over it to protect it from smudges and that sort of thing. Anyway, and I think he won a contest with that. But anyway, so that's how he was. But he was interesting guy. Very, I would not say normal. definitely seemed... Okay, trying to think how to explain this. He was easy to talk to if you were getting along with him. Okay? Seemed pleasant enough and easy enough to talk with. And even, kind of a wry sense of humor. However, he also seemed that he had another side to him that would definitely, absolutely hurt somebody. More so than other people. Like, if you seem like, yeah, if you piss that guy off, he might, do something. Well, Danny seemed much more than, oh, if you piss that guy off, he might do something. No, Danny seemed like you wouldn't have to do a lot to piss him off, first of all. And he seemed like he'd be very methodical and quick to shed your blood and cause severe damage and injury to your body and face, probably. That's how he seemed. Okay. And he seemed to have an amount of cruelty to him. I remember him telling me about the son of a woman he was dating. He had a girlfriend. He was dating this woman, and she had a 12-year-old son. And what he told me was just horrible. But he said when the kid did something wrong, or something that he thought was wrong, that he didn't like, that for the punishment, he would make the kid take his shoes off and stand up barefoot and beat his own feet, the top of his own feet, with a hose or a belt, either one, but usually a hose. And he said he would tell the kid to hit his feet. The kid would barely do it, and then he would, make him do it, scare him, intimidate him, tell him, you better do it, you better beat those feet, you better hurt him. And this kid would just start whacking his feet and beating the top of his own feet, bare feet, with a hose. Cannot imagine how much that would hurt. But he said that's what he did. Now, what kind of a woman would allow this psychopath to be around her son, her child? That's beyond me, man. I don't understand these people. But that's what would go on. That's just some of it. Who knows what else? That's just what he told me. She seemed like a real piece of work anyway. The things he would tell me about her, she would try to make him jealous of other guys and this and that. She'd go out to some club and call him while she's at the club and tell him about guys at the club that she likes, like that she finds attractive or whatever. So she's out there, he's at home, she's calling him and saying these things, and she's drunk apparently. She's saying these things and he's getting mad and this and that, and I'm like, wow. What a disaster. Like what I don't even, what kind of relationship is that? I mean, why are you even with somebody like this? Why would you be with this woman? Why would this woman be with you? Why would this woman do these things to you? This is craziness. Why would you be with this woman? The whole thing is just crazy. Psycho. It doesn't even make any sense. And then and she's leaving her son with this guy, and then he's doing these things to the son, telling him, making him beat his bare feet with a hose. Just horrible. So anyway, I lost track of Danny, but the last I heard, he apparently moved back to Illinois, and I don't know whatever came of the situation of Danny, the situation of Danny. I'll call it that. Guy was or is, I say is. Yeah, definitely not cool, man. Not a cool situation. I mean, he murdered this cop, and it was done. He was on death row. He murdered this cop. He told me about it. He told me how he did it. And then this lady, this lawyer, attorney, who wanted to make a name for herself, went to see him and talked to him. Said, "Do you want to get out of here?" He said, "Yes." And she said, "Okay, I need you to do exactly what I tell you to do, and I'm going to get you out of here." What? I mean, what in the world? Why did she do that? Anyway, so what a terrible situation for that officer, for the trauma, an incredible loss to the other officers who knew this officer, and to the officer's family. I believe he was married, and I think he had a young son. So just what a terrible, 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 just terrible loss to his fellow law enforcement officers, to the community, and to his family, and his including obviously his wife, and I believe his young child. I believe it was a young son. And then this lady, this attorney, just comes in and wants to make a name for herself, so she finds these little ways to wiggle in there and get this guy out of death row. Who murdered this cop? Oh my gosh. Where's the morals? I mean, that's just terrible. That is just terrible. Well, this is a rough draft of this. I'm going to clean the recording up, make it better, and then I'll upload it. And this is part 2, or a continuation of the first recording that I've already uploaded about Danny blowing the leg off, the lower portion of the leg of a 15-year-old kid. So I gotta do, check this out, edit it, look at. I might have to even re-record the whole thing. I wasn't really prepared. I just wanted to get it out there, and then I'll listen to it and see how it sounds. And I'll either upload this one, or I'll just re-record it and upload that one. I don't know. Alright guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates as I upload. And I will continue making these. I've got a lot of information about a lot of cases. Yeah, various cases. So I will be making more and putting more stuff up. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you have any suggestions for cases you'd like me to review, let me know that. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Remember to smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get updates as I upload. Take care.